Victoria Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, watching the city below move like clockwork. At 28, she commanded Sterling Enterprises with an iron fist wrapped in designer silk. Her reflection stared back from the glass, perfect in every detail except for the storm brewing in her green eyes. The intercom buzzed. "Sterling, Alina Blackwood is here for the 3 o'clock meeting." Victoria's jaw tightened. Alina Blackwood, her former business partner, an ex-girlfriend, had requested this meeting under the pretense of discussing a potential merger. But Victoria knew better. Alina never did anything without an ulterior motive. Alina swept into the office like she owned it, her platinum blonde hair catching the afternoon light. She wore confidence like expensive perfume, overwhelming and impossible to ignore. "Victoria, darling, you look stressed." "Cut the act, Alina. What do you want?" Alina settled into the leather chair across from Victoria's desk, crossing her legs with calculated grace. "The Hamilton Charity Gala is next week. I assume you received an invitation." Victoria's stomach dropped. The Hamilton Gala was the social event of the year, where business deals were made over champagne and reputations were built or destroyed in whispered conversations. More importantly, it was where Alina would debut her new romantic conquest, a move designed to publicly humiliate Victoria. "I'll be attending with Marcus Wellington," Alina continued, her smile sharp as broken glass. "You remember Marcus, don't? You, your college sweetheart who chose Harvard Business School over following you to New York?" The words hit their mark perfectly. Victoria kept her expression neutral, but inside, old wounds reopened. Marcus had been her first love, the one who taught her that business always came before the heart. "How lovely for you both," Victoria replied coolly. "I do hope you'll bring someone special. It would be such a shame if you attended alone again." Alina's tone dripped with false sympathy. "People might start to think the Ice Queen has finally frozen her own heart." After Alina left, Victoria slumped in her chair. The truth was, she hadn't dated anyone seriously in 2 years. Her last relationship ended when she chose a merger over a weekend getaway. The press had already started calling her the loneliest billionaire in Manhattan. Chance encounter that evening, Victoria decided to walk home instead of taking her usual car service. She needed air, space to think. The autumn wind whipped through her hair as she turned down a quieter street, seeking solitude. She almost didn't notice the small photography studio tucked between a coffee shop and a bookstore. Warm light spilled from its windows, and curiosity drew her closer. Through the glass, she watched a man adjusting camera equipment with practiced precision. Ryan Mitchell looked up as the studio door chimed. He had been expecting his final appointment. Of the day, not a woman who looked like she stepped out of a fashion magazine. Her tailored coat probably cost more than his rent, and her shoes screamed designer luxury. "We're closed," he said, wiping his hands on a towel. "Your sign says open until 8, Victoria replied, checking her watch. 7:30. Ryan glanced at the door, embarrassed. "Right, sorry. It's been a long day." "Are you looking for headshots? Family portraits?" Victoria studied him. He was handsome in an understated way, with dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it, and blue eyes that held genuine warmth. His jeans were worn but clean, his sweater soft with age. Everything about him screamed authenticity, something rare in her world. "Actually, I'm looking for a boyfriend." Ryan blinked. "Excuse me?" "Not a real one," Victoria clarified quickly. "A fake one, for one evening. A business arrangement." The proposition Ryan set down his camera and studied her more carefully. "Lady, I think you've got the wrong place. I'm a photographer, not an escort service. I know exactly what you are." Victoria pulled out her phone and showed him the screen. Ryan Mitchell graduated from NYU with a fine arts degree, struggling to keep this studio afloat while working 3 part-time jobs to pay for your sister's medical treatment. Ryan's face went pale. "How do you know about Emma?" "I make it my business to know things." Victoria tucked her phone away. "Your sister has been on the waiting list for a heart transplant for 8 months. The medical bills are crushing you. This studio is 3 months behind on rent. What do you want?" Victoria took a deep breath. "I need someone to accompany me to a charity gala next Friday. Someone who can convince a room full of Manhattan's elite that Victoria Sterling has found love." In return, I'll pay you $50,000. Ryan's legs nearly gave out. $50,000 would cover Emma's medical bills and keep the studio running for a year. But the woman standing before him was clearly wealthy and powerful, the type who crushed people like him without a second thought. Why me? You could hire any actor in the city. Because actors are performers. They're too polished, too obvious. I need someone real. Victoria stepped closer. I need someone who doesn't know my world well enough to be intimidated by it. Someone who won't try to use this opportunity for their own gain. Ryan thought about Emma lying in her hospital bed, joking about how the monitors made her look like a Christmas tree. He thought about the eviction notice he'd hidden in his desk drawer and the dreams he'd already sacrificed for survival. What would I have to do? Be charming, be attentive. Make it believable that someone like you could capture someone like me. Victoria's voice softened slightly. Make them believe in love, even if it's not real. They contract an hour later. They sat across from each other at a small cafe, a hastily written contract between them. Victoria had insisted on putting everything in writing, her business instincts never fully at rest. No kissing unless absolutely necessary for the performance, Ryan read aloud. No personal questions about your business or family. No contact with the media before, during, or after the event. Standard protection clauses, Victoria explained. This is a business transaction, nothing more. Ryan looked up from the papers. What about you? What are your rules for me? Victoria paused, surprised by the question. In her world, contracts were always one-sided, protecting the person with more power. I hadn't thought about it. Well, think about it now. If I'm going to pretend to be in love with you, I need to know who you really are underneath all this. He gestured at her expensive clothing and perfect composure. For a moment, Victoria felt exposed. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. Everyone has a story. Yours. What made Victoria Sterling build walls so high that she has to pay someone to pretend to love her? The question hit deeper than Elena's calculated barbs. Victoria found herself studying Ryan's face, searching for judgment or pity, but finding only genuine curiosity. That's not part of our deal, she said finally. Maybe it should be. If you want this to look real, I need to know what I'm working with. What makes you smile? What makes you angry? What do you do when you're not being the perfect CEO? Victoria signed the contract with a swift stroke of her pen. You'll have to figure that out as we go. Rehearsal starts tomorrow at 7. Don't be late. As she walked away, leaving Ryan with a check for half the agreed amount, she wondered if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her career or the best decision of her life. Lessons in Love. The Sterling Enterprises conference room had been transformed into an impromptu classroom. Victoria had arrived early, spreading notes and photographs across the mahogany table like battle plans, when Ryan entered, carrying a cup of coffee that smelled better than anything from her office's expensive machine. She was arranging seating charts with military precision. Good morning, sunshine, Ryan said, noting her sharp business suit and tightly wound demeanor. Ready for Love 101? This isn't a joke, Victoria replied, not looking up from her papers.
Oh.
These people will dissect every gesture, every glance. One wrong move, and they'll know we're faking it. Ryan settled into a chair and watched her work. In daylight, he could see the exhaustion she hid beneath expensive makeup and perfectly styled hair. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. But there was a tension in her shoulders that spoke of sleepless nights and constant pressure. Tell me about Elena, he said. Victoria's pen stopped moving. What about her? She's the reason we're doing this, right? The ex you want to impress, or defeat, or whatever this is really about. Victoria set down her pen and finally looked at him. Elena Blackwood and I were business partners 5 years ago. We built Meridian Holdings together, a tech startup that revolutionized online retail. We were also lovers. The admission hung in the air between them. Ryan waited, sensing there was more. She was brilliant, charismatic, everything I thought I wanted in a partner. When we sold Meridian for $200 million, I thought we'd conquered the world together. Victoria's voice grew colder. Then I discovered she'd been selling company secrets to our biggest competitor the entire time. She walked away with her share of the money and my biggest client, and now she's back. with my college boyfriend and a merger proposal that would put her in control of half my business. Victoria stood and walked to the window. She wants to humiliate me publicly before she destroys me professionally. Ryan joined her at the window. So this gala isn't just about appearances, it's about survival. Everything is about survival in my world. The first test, their first public appearance together, was lunch at Meridian, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Victoria had chosen it deliberately, knowing the establishment was frequented by business journalists and society photographers. Ryan had traded his usual casual clothes for a borrowed suit that fit surprisingly well. Victoria wore a cream-colored dress that managed to be both elegant and approachable. They looked like a perfect couple, successful but not ostentatious. "Remember," Victoria murmured as they were seated at a prominent table, "we've been dating for 3 months. We met at a gallery opening in Soho. You convinced me to buy a piece from an unknown artist." "What kind of piece?" "Photograph, black and white, a woman dancing alone in an empty theater." Ryan smiled. "That's specific. And oddly romantic for someone who claims not to believe in it." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a familiar figure. Lena Blackwood approached their table with the confidence of a predator who had spotted wounded prey. "Victoria, darling. And you must be the mystery man I've been hearing whispers about." Ryan stood and extended his hand. "Ryan Mitchell, you're the famous Lena Blackwood. Victoria's told me so much about you." Lena's smile sharpened. "All good things, I hope." "She said you were unforgettable," Ryan replied smoothly. "I can see why."
Ah.
Victoria watched the exchange with fascination. Ryan's tone was polite, but there was something underneath it, a subtle challenge that Alina couldn't quite identify. "And what do you do, Ryan, besides escort beautiful CEOs to lunch?" "I'm a photographer. I specialize in capturing authentic moments. The kind that can't be staged or faked." Linnea's face. "It's amazing what people reveal when they think no one is really watching." Elena's composure flickered for just a moment. "How interesting. Well, I should let you get back to your meal. Victoria, I look forward to seeing you both at the Hamilton Gala." After she left, Victoria stared at Ryan in amazement. "That was perfect. How did you know exactly what to say?" "I've dealt with bullies before. Lena's just wearing a more expensive outfit." Ryan reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. "Besides, I meant what I said. I do specialize in seeing what's real behind the mask over." The following days, their fake relationship began to feel surprisingly natural. Ryan accompanied Victoria to business dinners, where his outsider's perspective often provided insights that impressed her colleagues. Victoria found herself looking forward to his arrival, not just for the performance, but for the genuine conversation that followed. One evening, after a particularly tense board meeting, Victoria found Ryan waiting in her office with takeout containers. "And a bottle of wine? Rough day?" asked, noting her rumpled appearance and tired eyes. "The Blackwood merger is causing problems. Half my board thinks I'm letting personal feelings cloud my judgment." Victoria collapsed into her chair. "Maybe they're right." Ryan unpacked the food, filling her office with the aroma of Thai cuisine. "What does your gut tell you? That Alina is planning something bigger than a simple merger? But I can't prove it. Then we'll have to make sure you're ready for whatever she throws at you." Ryan handed her a container of pad thai. "Eat. You can't fight battles on an empty stomach." As they ate, Victoria found herself talking about things she'd never shared with anyone. Her fear of failure, her loneliness at the top, the way success had isolated her from genuine human connection. "Is that why you've never married?" Ryan asked gently. "I was engaged once. To Marcus, actually. But I chose a crucial business trip over our engagement party. Said I'd already married my company and there wasn't room for him." Victoria twisted her engagement ring, a habit she'd never broken. He wasn't wrong. You'd still wear his ring. Victoria looked down at her hand in surprise. "I'd forgotten I still had it on. Muscle memory, I suppose." Ryan reached across and gently touched her hand. "Maybe it's time to let go of the past." For a moment, Victoria felt something shift inside her chest, a warmth she hadn't experienced in years. Then her phone buzzed with another urgent email, and the moment shattered. The growing connection the night before the gala, Victoria couldn't sleep. She paced her penthouse apartment, rehearsing conversations and checking details for the 100th time. At 2 in the morning, her doorbell rang. Ryan stood in her hallway, holding a camera and wearing a sheepish expression. "I know, this is crazy. But I couldn't sleep either. Want to go for a walk?" They ended up on the roof of her building, the city sprawling below them in glittering glory. Ryan took photographs while Victoria watched, seeing her world through his lens for the first time. "Why photography?" she asked. "My mom died when I was 15. Cancer. Before she passed, she gave me her old camera and told me to capture the beautiful moments because they pass too quickly." Ryan lowered his camera and looked at her. "Emma has the same illness. I started taking pictures of her, trying to hold on to every smile, every laugh." Victoria felt her heart break a little. "That why this money matters so much. She's all I have left. If I lose her," Ryan's voice cracked slightly. "The doctors say the treatment is experimental, but it's her only shot." Without thinking, Victoria moved closer and took his hand. "We'll get her the treatment, I promise. This isn't part of our deal. Maybe it should be." Victoria echoed his words from their first meeting. Maybe some things are more important than contracts. As dawn approached, they sat together in comfortable silence, watching the city wake up below them. Neither acknowledged the way Victoria's head had found its way to Ryan's shoulder, or how his arm had naturally wrapped around her. Tomorrow would bring the gala and Elena's inevitable attack. But for now, in the quiet space between night and morning, two lonely people had found something they hadn't been looking for. Each other? Victoria? Ryan's voice was soft in the pre-dawn light. "Yes, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that this, right now, this is real." Victoria closed her eyes and let herself believe, just for a moment, that love might be more than just another business transaction after all. The night of reckoning, the Hamilton estate glittered like a fairy tale palace, its Georgian columns wrapped in thousands of white lights. Manhattan's elite arrived in a parade of limousines and luxury cars, their designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, creating a rainbow of wealth and power against the mansion's cream-colored facade. Victoria stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting the straps of her midnight blue gown one final time. The dress was a masterpiece of silk and subtle beading. Designed to catch light with every movement, she'd chosen it months ago, back when attending the gala alone seemed like her only option. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ryan, "Picking you up in 10 minutes. Try not to overthink this." Despite everything, Victoria smiled. In just 1 week, Ryan had learned to read her better than people who'd known her for years. He understood her tendency toward perfectionism, her need to control every variable in any situation. The doorbell announced his arrival precisely on time. When Victoria opened the door, her breath caught. Ryan wore a classic black tuxedo that transformed him from the casual photographer she'd grown comfortable with into something altogether more devastating. His dark hair was styled but not overly polished, and his blue eyes held a mixture of confidence and warmth that made her heart skip. "You looked incredible," he said, his voice carrying genuine appreciation rather than mere politeness. "So, you, very James Bond. More like James Bond's photographer cousin who accidentally got invited to the spy party." Ryan offered his arm, ready to face the lions. Entering the arena, the ballroom was a sea of glittering conversations and carefully orchestrated social warfare. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across the crowd while a string quartet provided elegant background music. Waiters circulated with champagne and con-ups that cost more per bite than most people spent on entire meals. Victoria and Ryan's entrance caused exactly the ripple effect she'd hoped for. Conversations paused as heads turned, assessing this unexpected development in Victoria Sterling's typically predictable social routine. She felt the familiar weight of scrutiny, but found comfort in Ryan's steady presence beside her. "Victoria, darling?" The voice belonged to Margaret Hamilton, their hostess, and the unofficial queen of Manhattan society. "You look absolutely radiant. And this must be the young man who's been keeping you so mysteriously happy." Ryan stepped forward with easy charm. "Ryan Mitchell, Mrs. Hamilton, thank you for including me in such a beautiful evening. A photographer, I'm told. How refreshing. We have far too many bankers and lawyers in our usual crowd." Margaret's eyes sparkled with genuine interest. "I'd love to hear about your work sometime." As they moved through the room, Victoria found herself relaxing despite the circumstances. Ryan's natural warmth and curiosity drew people in, and his obvious admiration for her felt increasingly less like performance and more like truth. The ambush they were sampling the auction preview when Alina made her move. She appeared beside them like a predator who'd been patiently stalking her prey, resplendent in a scarlet gown that commanded attention and Marcus Wellington at her side. Marcus looked exactly as Victoria remembered, tall, polished, with the kind of classical features that aged well with privilege. His smile was warm but carried undertones of old regret. "Victoria, you look wonderful." Marcus's greeting was carefully neutral, but his eyes lingered on her face with something that might have been wistfulness. "Marcus, Elena." Victoria's voice remained steady despite the sudden spike in her heart rate. "How lovely that you could both make it." "We wouldn't miss it," Elena purred, "especially when we heard you'd finally found someone special enough to bring." Her gaze fixed on Ryan with the intensity of a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Tell me, Ryan, what do you think of our little world of charity and commerce?" "I think people are fundamentally the same everywhere," Ryan replied easily. "They want to love and be loved, to matter, to leave something beautiful behind. The setting changes, but the human heart doesn't." Elena's smile sharpened. How poetic and how naive. In our world, hearts are luxury items most people can't afford. Maybe that's why your world needs more photographers and fewer people who've forgotten how to see beauty. The exchange was polite on the surface, but Victoria could feel the undercurrents of challenge and assessment. Alina was probing, looking for weaknesses she could exploit. The revelation the evening's carefully orchestrated perfection shattered during the charity auction's intermission. Victoria had stepped away to take a business call when Alina cornered Ryan near the mansion's grand staircase. $50,000, Alina said without preamble. "That's what she's paying you, isn't it?" Ryan's expression didn't change, but something cold settled in his chest. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you do. Victoria Sterling doesn't do anything without a contract and a clear return on investment. The question is, what exactly are you selling her?" Alina moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried more threat than any shout. "I know about your sister, about the medical bills, about your failing business. Victoria found your weakness, and she's exploiting it. The moment this little performance is over, she'll discard you like last season's fashion. You don't know Victoria at all, know her better than anyone. We built an empire together, shared everything, including a bed. She's incapable of genuine love because love requires vulnerability, and Victoria Sterling would rather die than appear weak." Elena's laugh was sharp as breaking glass. "She's using you, just like she uses everyone. The only difference is she's paying you directly instead of hiding behind corporate structures." Ryan felt something crack inside his chest. Despite everything he thought he'd learned about Victoria, Elena's words carried the weight of intimate knowledge and bitter experience. The confrontation Victoria returned from her call to find Ryan pale and distant. Before she could ask what was wrong, Elena's voice carried across the ballroom as she clinked her champagne glass to demand attention. "I may have a moment." Elena's smile was radiant and predatory. "I'd like to share some wonderful news about new partnerships and old friends." Victoria's blood turned to ice as she realized what was happening. This wasn't just about humiliation. Elena was about to destroy everything. As many of you know, Sterling Enterprises has been considering a merger with Blackwood International. What you may not know is that this merger represents more than just business. Elena's gaze found Victoria across the room. It's about second chances, about the importance of forgiveness in both love and commerce. The room fell silent, sensing drama but not yet understanding its nature. "You see, Victoria and I have a history that goes beyond boardrooms and profit margins. We were partners in every sense of the word, until pride and ambition drove us apart." Elena paused for effect. "But tonight, I'm pleased to announce that we've found our way back to each other. The merger will proceed, combining our companies and, I hope, our hearts." The crowd erupted in surprised murmurs and congratulations. Victoria stood frozen, realizing the trap had been perfectly laid. Alina had engineered this moment to force her hand publicly. making it impossible to refuse the merger without looking petty and vindictive. Ryan watched Victoria's face drain of color and understood immediately that their arrangement had just become a casualty of war. Also understood that Elena's earlier words had planted exactly the seeds of doubt she'd intended. The mansion's quiet library, away from the celebration and chaos. Victoria and Ryan faced each other across an ocean of unspoken truths. "Is it true?" Ryan asked quietly. "About the 50,000? About this all being just business?" Hands shook as she poured herself a brandy. It started that way, but not anymore. She turned to face him, and he saw tears threatening behind her carefully controlled expression. "I can't afford for it to be anything else. Lena's right about one thing in my world. Vulnerability is weakness, and weakness gets you destroyed. So you're going to take the merger. Sacrifice everything we've built for corporate survival."